Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the secondary English class for the Board of Open Schooling and Skill Education, Sikkim. I hope you all are studying hard and preparing well for your exams. So today we're going to do this chapter, Fire and Ice. This is chapter number 23. Okay. This is a poem by Robert Lee Frost. He was born on 26th of March, 1874, California, US, and met his end in Boston on January 29th, 1963. His literary works got published in England first, next in America. He's the only poet to have received 4 Pulitzer Awards for poetry. He was honored with the Congressional Gold Medal in 1960 for his poetic works. On July 22, 1961, he was named Poet Laureate of Vermont. He was invited by John F. Kennedy, former President of the United States of America, to recite a poem on the day of inauguration on January 20, 1961. Some of his famous poems are Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, Mending Wall, The Road Not Taken, and Fire and Ice. They are contemplative and reflective in nature. And a lot of times he wrote on rural themes in very simple language. So, okay. So the poem Fire and Ice is a symbolic poem and very reflective in nature, like I just said. It is a first-person narrative poem because of the usage of the first person, which is I, in the poem. The poet philosophizes that the world will end due to the 2 most destructive powers, which are fire and ice, that somehow symbolize human nature in the form of desire and hatred. And this can be lethal in terms of bringing an end to the world. All right. So after reading this lesson, one would be able to understand the main theme of the poem, critically appreciate it, develop language through literature via task-based exercises. Let's begin. Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. Let's look at the first 4 lines of the poem first. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. He says this world, we human beings, the flora and fauna, this all of it can be destroyed. Will either end in fire or ice. He says fire represents human desire and ice refers to hatred. These 2 are most powerful and destructive weapons to destroy anything. It's quite common that the world will end in fire as per many myths, but here the poet assumes that the unwanted desire and and hatred among human beings for each other will end the world. So excess of anything is bad, and hatred, of course, when there is lack of love, when there is no empathy, when there is no concern for our fellow beings, and so all actions that will emanate from that feeling, those will be disastrous for us. Desire makes one greedy, and hatred triggers to achieve anything out of greed. In John Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan's ambitious desire to dethrone God was a reason of his fall from heaven to hell. Then the poet is of the view that he also has desire and supports those who opine that the world will end in fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So here, the poet is trying to say that let's presume, for the sake of argument, that it's come to life and it's again going to get destroyed. So he says that it will be because of hatred, and ice can freeze one to death. Similarly, hatred is sufficient to create enmity among each other and can lead one to develop, conspiracy theories. It is, we just have to start thinking that the other person's trying to harm me, and lo and behold, after a while, we will start to believe in it, even if the other person is doing no such thing. None of the actions warrant hatred on our part, but we can still do it. Hate is a very strong word, very strong emotion to have. And it is this emotion that it's basically lack of love, and which makes us do things that our soul regrets. And so the poet is just trying to warn us that if we don't keep hatred in check, we will destroy this beautiful world that we have around us, all our loved ones, because hatred is so consuming, and every action, every feeling, every thought that comes from hatred is to lead us to our downfall. And it's just so easy to love. And if we could only see the good in others, and if we were to be tolerant of others, of their religious beliefs, of their political ideologies, of their sexuality, and we need to give people space to blossom, and we need to stop thinking that our viewpoint or our religious beliefs or our political ideologies, that these are the only ones which have any worth. So look at what is happening around the world. Look at what people are willing to do in the name of God. And that's the most tragic thing, that no religion tells us to be violent. No religion teaches us to be intolerant of others. No religion tells us to not have empathy, to not have respect and love and care for our fellow beings. Yet people convince themselves that they're doing it in the name of religion, and that they're convinced that whatever they're doing, it's kind of sanctioned by religion. It's just downhill from there then, and we take all our loved ones with us when we start treading on that path. So the poet is just trying to warn us that unless we keep our desires in check, and unless we learn to love our fellow human beings, and unless we are tolerant and we are empathetic and we are understanding of another person's beliefs, that we are doomed for destruction. So let's look at this now. Okay. The poet is just trying to tell us that we will perish. We will be completely destroyed if we don't keep these emotions in check. All right. So let us look at some of the figures of speech here. So what is a metaphor? It is a word or a phrase, it's in an idiomatic expression that is not used in its literal sense, but to produce a rhetorical effect. And two things are compared, which might be very different from each other. So how is a metaphor different from a simile? So in a simile, we compare two things. It's like, supposing I were to say, her smile brightens up the room like sunshine. So when a comparison is being made between two things and we use the word like or as, that's a simile. But in metaphors, we don't do that. So now, what is an okay? So what is alliteration? Alliteration. It says here, could you please read the following example aloud? Focus on the letter P. When reading, you could notice that one particular sound, P, in the letter P has been used at the beginning of those words to create a rhetorical effect. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Okay, so it's the sound that is repeated here. Let's the P alphabet is repeated and the sound too. So normally in prose, it isn't really recommended that you use too much alliteration, because it gets a little difficult to read sometimes. But poems, of course, it's fun. And so can you think of instances where alliteration sounds good? Like, it sounds really good, sometimes when we're naming something. Let's say we're naming a cartoon character. Now look at Donald Duck. The alphabet D is being repeated. Betty's Burgers. So then it sounds fun, okay, when we're naming things like Dunkin' Donuts. So what you can do as an exercise is, why don't you come up with some cartoon characters and name them, and keeping alliteration in mind. This should be a fun exercise for you to do. All right. Okay, now we have assonance. Read the following example aloud, focusing on the red letters and their sounds. So here I'm on the terminal exercises and the figure of speech here. Assonance. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Now here it is the letter A and the sound A. A. This is there in a series of words. This is assonance. It's different from alliteration. In alliteration, a lot of words, like I said, Betty's Burgers, Donald Duck, like they begin with the same letter and the sound. Okay, so symbol. Now, if we say Rebecca is as innocent as a lamb, Now, see, the lamb here is the symbol for innocence. So, Rebecca's innocence is being compared to that of a lamb, and lamb we perceive as innocent. Okay. Anaphora. Life is a song, sing it. Life is a long road, travel it. Life is a tragedy, face it. Life is full of ups and downs, embrace it. Each sentence begins with the word life in successive lines. So what is anaphora? This is repetition of a word or a phrase at the beginning of successive lines. And it can have a very dramatic effect sometimes when we're reading it, right? Okay, now you have enjambment. So the spellings here are enjambment. But why are we pronouncing it as enjambment? A lot of times people make this mistake of not understanding this simple guideline about pronunciation, about M and B. Let's take a look at some of the words. Let's say there is thumb. A lot of people pronounce it as thumb. Or tomb, they say tomb or tomb. Or plumber. I rarely come across anyone pronouncing it correctly when people say plumber. So please keep in mind that there are no rules in English. English is not as scientific and, logical a language. There are lesser vowels and more sounds. So there are no rules, so to say, but there are guidelines, yes. Okay, so whenever there is a word which has the letter B after M, 9 out of 10, the B will be silent, which is why it is thumb, it is lamb, it is plumber, it is tomb, it is but. Now, but like I said, 9 out of 10, it's not a rule, it's a guideline. So can you think of any example where this rule doesn't apply? Where if we have a B after M and we still say the letter, the sound B? How about umbrella? Now see here, B is after M, but here we are pronouncing the B, which is why guidelines, okay, not rules. Now, another rule that comes to my mind now that we're talking about M and M is that let's say you have an L before M. Again, it's a guideline, it's not a rule. But if there is an L before M, the L will be silent. For example, PALM is palm, CALM is calm, ALMONDS, almonds, SALMON, salmon. So this is another thing, okay, that, but can you think of any words where this doesn't apply now? How about the word, if it's interesting, if I say ALMS, it's arms, like you're giving something as in alms, like charity. But if I say ALMOST, now this is almost, See? So guidelines, not rules. Anyway, so where were we? Okay, so I was telling you about enjambment. So the spellings are enjambment, but pronounced enjambment. Okay, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. This also is by Robert Frost. So, okay, so here you see, you notice the continuation of sentences without a pause at the end of a line in this stanza from the poem mentioned above. So they're just continuing. There is no pause here. See, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. So now let's come to the definition. Enjambment is nothing but the continuation of a sentence without a pause beyond the end of a line, a couplet, or a stanza. So now you have this exercise here. Exercise 3, identify the figure of speech used in the following line, refer to the glossary or the following brief discussions on figures of speech and mark the red letters for choosing the right option. All right. So these are objective type questions. Please attempt this. Okay. And then there are also these. Tick the exercise 4. Tick the word that is closest in meaning to the given words. Suffice. You have these options. Let's do the first one. Enough, overflow, less, gigantic. It'll suffice. Enough. Okay. All right. So, one moment. Okay, I'm just taking a look at the exercises that you have here. Like here, for example, okay, the next exercise is tick the word that is opposite in meaning to the given words. Okay, here again they have suffice and they have end and they have destroy, and there are 4 options that you have to find tick the word that is closest in meaning. Sorry, closest, that is opposite in meaning, sorry. Okay, now let's look at contracted forms, okay? In connected speech, when we are supposing saying I have, and when in the contracted form, then shortened, that means shortened form, it will be I apostrophe VE. Now, please keep in mind that when in the contracted form, the pronunciation also changes. Like if I have to say, I have a meeting at 5 o'clock today, right? Or I have to attend a class at 5 o'clock today. Sorry, but if I have written I have in the contracted form, which is I apostrophe VE, then I'll say, I have to go there. Now, I have to go. So the pronunciation will change. So here are these phrases, and the contracted form is also given. I am is I apostrophe M. She is she apostrophe S. So what does the apostrophe indicate here? The apostrophe indicates missing letter or letters here, right? Would not is wouldn't. Could not is couldn't. WOULD, N apostrophe T. So I would go there. Now if I say I I would be going to Houston in a couple of months. So, but if I say I would in the contracted form, then I say I'd be going, I'd. Now see, I would sounds very different from I'd be going, I'd. This is how the pronunciation changes. We would, we'd be going. See? So now, and then the next exercise is write the present, past, and past participle form of the verbs given below. This is suffice and favor. No. Okay. So these verbs we have done in detail earlier in one of the classes, and this you should be able to do. Okay. All right. Very, very simple exercises. These are some of the contracted forms here given. Okay, now this is exercise 13, which says put the jumbled words in order and make meaningful sentences. For example, say /n/world/in/fire/will /and ice the people that the. Now look at, now you unjumble them and make meaningful sentences. It take a little bit of time initially, but then you'll be able to do it, I'm sure. Okay, so then there are some of the rhyming words that you have to figure out. Okay, and then this is one exercise which is dictionary skills. Put the following words in order as they appear in the dictionary. I'm sure you all know how to consult a dictionary, and so you should be able to do. In case you have any issue, you just have to go by the alphabetical order. So, because let's say the word abstract, for example, abstract will come before admonish, right? Because A is the same, but B comes before D. So we start with the first letter and then we keep checking the subsequent letters to see which one will come first. I'm sure you know this. Okay. Another thing is that not only are a lot of English words spelled differently in the American English from the British English, they're also pronounced differently. And sometimes the pronunciation might be the same, but the spellings are different. For example, color, C-O-L-O-U-R, and Americans would write C-O-L-O-R, but they'll still pronounce it the same, color. But for example, words like obligatory and obligatory, like mandatory and mandatory, like the American pronunciation is very different from the British one. But we're able to understand each other, it's fine. They are able to understand each other. And so this brings us to an end to this chapter. And now the next we will start with Home They Brought Her Warrior Dead. This is chapter number 24, and we'll be taking it up day after. And as I always say, in case any one of you want to discuss something separately, you can email to me or send a message here, and we can I'll be more than happy to clarify any doubts that you have. So this is by Tennyson, and we will start with this chapter. All right. And you, all of you, I've had a good time and have a very good evening. Thank you.